So first, travel tip is be prepared. Traveling is always something that will bring spontaneous moments. So you won't always be prepared for every single moment, but it's always nice to have the things that the major things that you need with you, like clothes, accessories, your passports, money, those kinds of things. Like, even if you want to do something where you don't know where you're going, you should have something to start off with. And in life, we want to be prepared because you also don't know where you're going. You also don't know the surprise things that could happen along the way of this life travel, this life journey. And so it's nice to have a well that you could just keep drawing yourself up from. So that comes from God's word. And actually, there are 2 points that I wanted to share on being prepared. First, God has already prepared some stuff for us to do. So he already has a purpose for us. He already prepared amazing things for us, really. And so what we have to do is prepare ourselves to step into what God has prepared for us. So basically, we do that by reading his word, spending time with him, and being surrounded by the right people, so that in case we do hit a bump in the road, or we do go off course a bit, or we get hurt, we lose sight of what is important or what we need to do, then we can always have something to hold on to. There's always something there. Okay, travel tip number 2, do your research or study. So maybe this isn't applicable to everybody, but it's definitely applicable to our family, especially since we travel. A lot of the times it's more than 5 people, so our family is a family of 5. We've done a lot of traveling as our own family, but we've also traveled with our other relatives from my mom's and dad's side, so that's a lot of people, and it requires a lot of planning. Now, one experience that I've had in terms of doing research and studying that failed was in 2018 when we went to Hong Kong. So what happened was, this was a surprise trip, and what we were doing was doing the 18 city countdown to my 18th birthday. So we went to more than 18 cities from August 2017 to August 2018, and Hong Kong was one that was just added. So we didn't do our research of the weather. We just packed and assumed that it would be cold, and it turned out to be really hot. So I was wearing boots with this sweater and leggings when I could have just worn shorts and sneakers. So basically, we didn't do a proper study, so we didn't get to enjoy it fully in terms of clothing. It was even hotter due to the wardrobe that we brought. But sometimes in life, when we don't study, not just in school for students like me, but also when we don't study God's word, then we feel more defeated. We feel like there's so much more that we could have done that we can't do because we weren't filled with the wisdom to make those decisions, or we weren't filled with the encouragement or the comfort to get through that situation. Know the details, but not everything, because in traveling you will never know everything, and in life you will never know everything as well. In Isaiah 55, it says that God's ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts than our thoughts. That just means that he knows everything and we don't. So what better way to get through life than with walking along, going through life along with the one who knows everything. I mean, that's the best way to go. But yeah, in traveling, we don't know the details to everything. Once again, in our family, we talk about the itinerary, what we're going to be doing on this day, and a lot of times recently it involves cruises. So there's not as much to prepare for in a way, because the cruise itself has all the food, it has the place to stay, sleep, and then it has its own itinerary of where you're gonna go down on and which stop. But there are just some things that you don't know of, when you're in the cruise and then you are going off to the first destination. What are you gonna do? What are we gonna do? And so there are times where we know, okay, let's take a tour, but we don't know everything about the tour. So we know, but we don't know. And that's the exciting thing. You have to have hope and faith that it'll turn out well. And sometimes there are trips we've had where it did not turn out well, like our trip to Japan. It basically bummed everybody out. That trip was not the best, totally not the best, but the place itself was beautiful. And that's where it just teaches you, where you know things but you don't know everything, and that's why it's nice to just have your expectations and your hope in the right place. 4th, pack what you need. Okay, if we were to go, let's go back to the cruise. If we were to go down to, let's say, in our Mexican cruise, but then we brought other clothes that were for Alaska, and they were all in one luggage, that would not be smart to bring your whole luggage full of other things that you don't need down to one country. So what I actually do is I always pack small bags, like sling bags or like a small backpack, to just bring the things I need just to go down off the cruise. So that would be my Polaroid, maybe, depending on the place, power bank, my phones, and then I would probably take either a scarf or gloves, depending on if it's a cold place or if it's a warm place, sunglasses. And that's it. Like, I don't have to bring my whole luggage because that's just gonna drain my energy. In life, don't hold on to things that you don't need anymore. Like, if it's in the past, let it go and let God take care of it. We had a video on that recently. Let go and let God, because it frees you, it lifts you up. Maybe not all at once, but it'll lead you on that road, okay? Okay, next, 5th tip, get out of the house and go. Really, that's like bringing it back to reality. You can plan all you want and study every country, but if you don't go, you're not going to experience it for yourself. And in Matthew 28:19, Jesus' last commandment was for us to go into the world and make disciples. So literally we have to go. We can't just plan about it and dream about it and just pray about it. Even though those help, we have to go and do it ourselves, because actions speak louder than words, but words also have power. Just saying. So 6th tip, endure the process. So there are lots of times where our trips, specifically on the airplanes, are something to endure. Like, it's not enjoyable, like you have to endure it, because America to the Philippines, that's like a average 14 to 16 hour flight. And there was even a time where we went from Manila to New York to Vancouver, so we had like a stopover at New York, and that was like about 20 something hours in total. And recently, I don't know why, some airplanes we go on to from the Philippines don't have TVs in their airplanes anymore. It's sad, but like, it makes it an even bigger struggle for us, because then we have to download our own movies or just try to sleep through it all and eat and then sleep again. And so it's an enduring process because we can't do anything about it. We're in the sky. You can't just jump off the plane and then walk the rest of the way like you could do with a car or a bike, I guess. Like, you just stop and then walk the rest of the way. On an airplane, you gotta endure it. And sometimes for me, I get these pains like here in the front of my head, and it's horrible. I don't like feeling them at all when I'm in the airplane, because like I said, there's nothing you can do about it, and sometimes I find it hard to sleep when I'm in pain. So there are just moments where you have to endure it, and getting to the destination is so rewarding. It's satisfying to finally put your feet on the ground and be like, I'm here. So there are moments in life where you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel pain. You're gonna feel like, when is this gonna end? But in the Bible, it says that when you endure and when you persevere, then you will be growing your faith, and you'll be tested out better than gold, and you'll be stronger and better than before. And whenever you reach the next destination, it will feel more rewarding because you actually made it. So yeah, endure the process, no matter how hard it is. Enjoy the journey. In Philippians 4:4-9 and Hebrews 12:2, they talk about having joy, rejoicing always. And in traveling in life, you're not always gonna feel like it. There are moments, honestly, when, especially when we're traveling as a big group, and there's just so much to take in at the moment, like watching the kids, watching the luggage, making sure we're on the right place. Or sometimes you do get lost, sometimes you don't know where we're going. The most recent experience that we had traveling, because 2020 we didn't travel at all, the recent one that we had where we kind of got lost was in Venice. Not that you could really get super lost in Venice, because technically, like, you're just in one place, but the alleys are so small. And then we had a stroller, we had a lot of big luggage, and about 16 people just trying to find our hotel, and it's small, so we kept going through these alleys like, where are we supposed to go? And so in those moments, you don't feel like rejoicing, but honestly, in that moment, I was overwhelmed because I loved Venice. I don't know if it sounds cliche, but I did fall in love with Venice in that way. Like, it was so beautiful. My cousin as well, like, she also agreed. Like, it's such a nice place that I wanted to grasp it all. And so even if there were moments where it didn't feel exciting and it was a bit frustrating, I looked at the bright side and said, hey, I'm in Venice and this place is beautiful. I'm gonna enjoy it because God brought us here. And sometimes in life, you just have to look at that side, not just at the positive side, but at what God could be doing in you and through you and for you that you might not see yet. 8th tip is capture the moment. So this is something that we've grown in. So when I was a kid, if you guys saw my 20 years of traveling video, when I did my first international travel at 8 months old as a baby, yes, we didn't have capturing the moments as that big of a thing compared to now, where I guess technology helped. But we did have a lot of pictures over the years, which helps so much because you can look back and just see how far you've come. These videos that I did, all the travel vlogs that I have on my channel, if you look at them, they're not the best travel vlogs, but man, when we look back at it, we're like, oh, I missed this, or oh my goodness, you remember this, and it just brings my family back to seeing how faithful God has been in our lives because of like everything that they've been through. And that's the same thing for us, and we capture the moments. It doesn't just have to be in traveling, but it could be treasuring moments with your loved ones, with your friends, like building each other up, because that's what it says in the Bible, to edify and build each other up. When we do that, it makes life more meaningful, and when we look back, we can see how far we've come. Not to dwell on the past, but to just look back and be like, wow, God has done a lot. God is faithful. And so I don't have an experience to share about capturing the moments. All I can say is that if you look through my whole channel, my Instagram feed, even on some of my blogs, you could just see how capturing the moment is just so important. Okay, 9th tip, travel tip, is share the trip. When you are overwhelmed with how amazing and how beautiful that trip was, it is excruciating to keep it to yourself when you can't tell anybody about it. And like, I know for one, when I come back to the Philippines, or if I'm in America talking to my old friends, like whenever we talk about trips and traveling, or some people can relate, and we would just share all of the bloopers or share all of the things that happen, it just makes it more, like, it lightens the load of how you're not keeping the good news to yourself. You're actually telling people about it so that they can experience it, even if it's just for a little bit, even if it's just by imagining the story you're telling. I remember telling my friends some bloopers where in our first Europe trip in 2010, we were going from London to Paris, or Paris to London. I forgot which way, but we were basically in the train station, and the train we were supposed to go on left. And we were like, oh no, so we ran to the other side, and the next train left, and we ran back, and the next train left, and we were like, Mom, why don't you go and do your thing? So she went, and there was only one train left. I think it was on the Eurostar, and we were able to get there, but it was so funny because we kept running back and forth in the station with a stroller, and then a little girl carrying the luggage, or I was pushing the stroller and my dad carrying the luggage. It was just funny. We have other experiences where we are in Paris, or even in other travels, and you have an umbrella, but it never rains when you have an umbrella, and when you don't have an umbrella, that's when it rains. Like, so we have all those experiences, and it makes people happy. It makes people look forward in hope because of hearing those stories. And imagine if we did that with the good news, the gospel, what Jesus did for us. If we went and shared the good news, we wouldn't have to bear the burden of keeping it just to ourselves, and then people dying every single day without knowing it. Like, that is our responsibility as Christians, to go into the world, share the news, just as we would share an exciting trip, or even if it was a bad trip, like, we still share it with people so that we could like get the views, get the other like ideas, and like, oh, okay, maybe this is where it went wrong and what we can do better next time. And so it's just important to tell people about what's going on, especially in the community of believers. We have to be there for one another as disciples of Christ, to be accountable and to be responsible for one another and what we do. So travel tip number 10 / life tip number 10. I've been trying to speed talk this, so I hope you guys understood everything, and I hope the videos and the pictures were helpful. Number 10 is the easiest, I guess. Treasure the memories. This is quite related to the past 2 tips, but to make it 10, I was like, what else could you do? When we travel, what else do we do? Treasure the memories. This may include bringing home souvenirs. So if you've been following along on my vlog, you might have seen some souvenir spots in my room where I have a magnet wall, I have Polaroid pictures, I collect a lot of things: bells, pencils, pens, notebooks, even other cute stuffed toys or whatever else I can find that's not as expensive. So I have a lot of that because they help us remind ourselves of what happened and what we learned and what we can go through, because traveling in itself has so many lessons that classrooms can't teach, that your house can't teach, that Google can't teach. There are so many things that happen in traveling that can only really come by experience. I learn about cultures, I meet other people, learning different languages, or maybe not learning, but hearing different languages and their differences, learning about the people, the place, what made the place, the history. I love history. So getting to see all of that comes from experience. So even if you could research everything in Google, it's totally different to actually be there. It's that moment where you're just like, everything that you learned and you read is now being applied. And that's the same thing in life. There are so many lessons we could learn through experience, through the classroom, through home, and there's so many lessons and life reminders that the instruction book or the guidebook of life, the Bible, has to tell us. But it's so different when you read it and apply it and experience it in your life, and not just keep it to, oh yeah, I know that verse, oh yeah, I know what Jesus said. It's so different when you actually go out into the world and live out a life that is applying and experiencing everything that you've read. So once again, there are so many different experiences that we've had, traveling, bloopers to fun moments, amazing moments. I honestly have no favorite country. I am that kind of person who has a hard time choosing favorites over things. Like, I really just love the variation of every city and every country. So if you guys want me to make a video about my favorite cities or my favorite countries, you could ask me to, and I could definitely try, but I can't assure you that I'd have just a few favorites, because every place, there's always just something amazing to look forward to in every single place, even if they all seem the same sometimes. Aside from that, I just hope that you guys were able to get some short, fast, but impactful reminders about not just how to travel in preparation, and I think my tips were more of your mindset, but also like just the basic tips. I can't give further tips than that because every trip is technically on its own, and because we're all different people, we all have different experiences in every trip. But I hope that they encouraged, gave you a little imagination, and gave you some life reminders so that we could keep applying it as we go through life. Even if right now we can't travel, we are still going through the life journey. So I hope these tips, these pieces of advice did help. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to check out some other travel videos, I made some short summaries of some, or the full vlogs themselves. Check them out on the travel playlists, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, keep praying, and God bless.